Okay, let's do the Schalke team then, because this is the team where, as you've alluded to, VDS, they brought in Trick, who, for anyone who doesn't know, hasn't had a great time since you last saw him in Europe. Like, when he was on the BBQ Oliver's team, he wasn't particularly good, and the team itself actually was a very, very erratic, not particularly great team. Then he obviously was in Turkey, wasn't exactly setting the world alight over there. And bizarrely, somehow now ended up back in Europe. I can only assume, just when he was about to retire from his career, he got that Skype message. Jan, who's this? And he goes, I could put you on a team in Europe if you want. The premier, booking agent in Europe contacted him under his alias that none of you know, and he arranged for him to join a team again. And so the interesting thing about this move for me is this is where we're going to learn who the fuck Abidage is. Because Abidage was in a team where, in theory, you would think, right, he should be one of the better players, right? This is a guy who has a chance. He's a rookie. Everyone's excited to see him play. He has this very, very proactive jungler who's getting all these early game leads. Like, if you want to be a carry player in Europe, here's your chance. Here's your debut. And unfortunately, those two players, Memento and Abidage, they needed to have amazing synergy, and they had fucking no synergy, it looked like at times. And on top of that, Abidage had such a limited champion pool that he could actually win games on. It was ridiculous. And so for me, this now shows this split what it's about, because Trick is a player who his entire career was made playing around perks pretty much. Like, this is a guy where when he's in G2, they had an amazing synergy together. That's why my joke is they synergized so well, people accidentally thought Trick was the MVP. Anyway, you see the way I go there. Here's the thing, Vidius, you just let a few of them go, mate. Pick the ones that are the ones worth having a battle for. You got to let some of this shit go, mate. We can't be taking up all of them. So anyway, what do you think of this team that he's coming into now, Schalke? Because as you said, it hasn't been a great first week.
No. So when we had Upset on PGL, he was talking about how, like, a player's strength is not always indicative of how they look on, like, previous teams. So a good player can often look worse if they're on a bad team, and a bad player can look better if they're on a good team, right?
Very timely for him to say that, of course.
Yeah, and one of the things he was saying about Trick was that people think that he's a bad player, but, like, he is very smart about the game. He has a lot of experience, evidently, and like, his mechanics are still up there with some of the best of them. And one of the things that he brings to the Schalke roster is, like, a little bit more structure and, like, leadership. And that's not to say that he brings shot calling, but, you were talking about, like, having that voice earlier, that person that goes, this is the thing we're doing. I think that he adds that. So if a lot of people are feeding information, I think he's ultimately the guy that says, okay, I think the best play is to do Baron, or I think best play is, like, he ultimately just brings a little bit more solidarity to the team. And I think, like, his early game is fine. Like, Frosk and I had a really long discussion around how I felt like he could have done a lot more in his early game, and she was like, I think he had a great early game. But the thing for me about Trick is that he hasn't really changed a lot of this team for me. Now, it's obviously still very early on in the split, and that team had a lot of issues last split, so bringing in a new player, they probably still have a lot to work through. But Schalke doesn't necessarily feel that much different to me. They don't have a core identity. That they still feel very much like the Upset show. They still feel very much like, hey, if he's in a position to carry, then we're gonna win. But yeah, like I don't know. I feel like I don't have much of an opinion on them because they haven't shown me a huge amount. Like they almost lost to XL, and then they did lose to SK, and, like, that's worrying. Right? Like, when these two are the teams that are arguably towards the bottom half of the split, like, Schalke at the beginning of last split was sitting in second place. So, yeah, like, I haven't really seen that much adaptation. And again, it's only a week for sure. And I'm still going to leave my mind open to the possibility that this team is better than what they were able to showcase in week one. But so far, I don't really have much of an opinion. They seem just very much similar to what we saw last split.
The game they lost to SK, if Upset played a little bit better in that fight where he just walked up, got Bromulted, and then got insta-deleted, I think they should have and would have won that game.
And if Hyanan just hadn't walked up and eaten that cocoon, then XL should have and could have won that game against
maybe
0-2 tweet.
Maybe. But I'll say this, like, at least they do have an identity, and we are an upset team, and we are going to rely on him. It is not the best identity to have in this meta. Like, they played Vayne 2 games in a row. Like, what other team is fucking playing Vayne? Like, they're playing Vayne Braum, Vayne Thresh. Like, they're going out of their way to be this upset team. But one thing that's really different for me is their mid and jungle is not giant mid hole of pressure anymore. Like, or not a giant black hole of pressure in mid and jungle. Like, last split, I look at their mid and jungle, and there is literally a black hole that is like no pressure, like nothing. Like, the mid and jungle gave nothing, and this split, at least in these 2 games, like Abbedagge looks better, has better synergy with jungle. Like, the jungler isn't doing nothing. Like, this is at least something they can build off of. Like, I don't think that bot lane identity is going to carry them all the way to like 2nd or even 3rd, but they'll be better than last split. I'll be shocked if this team doesn't make playoffs again. Like, Upset is damn good. Odo Omne, good. Like, Abbedagge passable, Trick passable, Ignar passable. Like, this is a playoff team.
Wait a minute. How you just described a team that's terrible. Like, you just described that. So the bot lane is, we have a really good AD carry, right? Mm-hmm. So who are we going to pair him with? Really limited support player who has to basically play like ridiculous engaged champions. Doesn't still have very much.
He loves the support and the AD both like having resource.
Then why don't they have the best bot lane in Europe then?
They don't. I mean, you can still be a good bot lane without being the best bot lane in Europe. It's not black and white.
That's my point, is what a waste of a bot lane. Like, of all the support players you could have, this is the bot lane you made. Like, on this team, you need to play through the bot lane. Look who you have. Like, but how can you? It's so limited as to what you can do.
I don't
even think it's upset that the one that's limited, he has to play shit that can work with what Ignar can play. There's the fucking limiting factor for you right there. Then you look at the rest of the team. If I'm going to pick 2 players on the top side of the map to work together, it's going to be the fucking mid laner and the jungler, obviously. That's in theory at the moment still the weak connection. Like, Odo Amne, as you see, is definitely willing to play carries, but is it even the right team for him to play them in? I don't really know, actually.
No, not really. Not on this team,
exactly.
Not really.
So my point is, like, I agree, they have players who in isolation, I think, could all be in teams just as good or better, maybe. But like together, I don't think it's a very good mix of players. Personally, I don't have a lot of faith in this Schalke team.
Wait, their identity is clear towards bot lane. Like, you talked about Ignar having a limited champion pool.
And you've just agreed they don't have the best bot lane. So their identity is play to bot lane where we're not even the best, and then we have a massive hole in mid and jungle. And then you're like, cool. Sounds like the playoffs will be fun. Sounds like you'll be fucking playing 1 round of the playoffs, mate.
Think about TL with Ole. They weren't the best bot lane because Ole was limiting. But Ole Doublelift was a lane you could play towards too because Double was so good. I think Upset is either the best or the second best AD carry.
Yeah, I agree.
Right
if
now.
you sent them to LCS, maybe they could be a champion. But this is the LEC. There's better teams, you know.
They can be top tier. Oh, wow. Yeah. Their identity is clear. Wait,
you set him up for that one. There we go.
Dorian, Ignar plays shit like Thresh. He likes Blitz. He likes Leona. He likes people coming to his lane. And when people come to his lane and they play towards the bot lane, then you're playing towards Upset and Ignar. Like, they synergize in that regard. The huge problem they had last split was mid and jungle was a black hole of pressure. It just sucked everything in and gave nothing. It was just sucking in everything. But now mid and jungle are actual human beings. They have actual human beings for mid and jungle. That's all they needed to be a playoff team, and they have human beings now. I think they'll make playoffs easy. I'll be shocked.
They can make playoffs, but they're not. I don't see anything more than that from this team. Like, the problem is what you described there was the only strength they have.
So this is the thing for me, right? I agree that I may have been a little disingenuous because Loco makes a great point in that the difference between what their mid jungle was to what it is now is like, it's night and day, right? There is a very clear difference, right? And you can debate whether you can actually successfully, because in an ideal world, right, when you have a bot lane like this, they're self-sufficient and you can leave them to it, and then you can just play through your mid and top, right? That would be the ideal world, or at the very least you hard play through mid and then your mid gets you advantages that you can then bring to bot, and then you enable Upset like as a secondary thing rather than as the primary thing that you do in this game. The thing that I think we haven't seen yet is just the team's successful ability to fully enable Abbedagge, allow him to be a massive carry, and then run away with the game. I feel like in both games it's been very much around Upset. And as you rightly said, I think the Vayne pick is something to do with it. I think if they pick something more like a Sivir or a Zyre or something that was a little bit more like neutral in terms of how it impacts the game, maybe we can see that focus shift. But I will agree that I think that there is very clearly an upgrade in what we saw in mid and jungle compared to what we saw last split. And on paper, this should definitely be a playoff team. I think those are fair statements.
Thing is, I'm actually not really like I don't really buy that Abidag is that good a player. I think he's pretty average. In fact, I would say if you look at the talent pool in Europe, I'd say he's probably below average.
Wait,
See, I mean, the problem is coming into the split, there was Caps, there was Nuke Duck, and there was debatably Jizuke, right? And then, like, who do you put fourth? Like, based on
Wait a minute. I think Humanoid's way better than Abidag.
Yeah, but like last split, that you can't make the
pretty
argument.
decent.
Like, that's my point, right? He's pretty decent. Remember the days when we had like 7 good mid laners?
Sure,
And it was the debate.
here's the thing, though. The difference is the distinction I make is that I think Humanoid was already pretty good, as I said, in a team that I don't even think necessarily fit his style the best. Like I think I think if you swap these two players, they probably make more sense on the opposite teams. Like Abidag would probably make more sense on Splice. I think this guy would fucking kill it on Schalke if he had any of those junglers. So like that's the problem for me. Is like. The problem at the moment in Europe is like the team level is what's making people define the player level on mid, for example. Like I don't think Abidag is a very good player, mate. Look at all the players in the league right now.
Oh, I mean,
last
last split,
at all.
Abidag was horrendous. He died so much, and like I was impressed that anyone could die a lot on Lissandra.
Like he really was the player who was only on Lysandra because like, he would just die all the time.
Like he had a bad split, right? And there were lots of stats to support it, right? Not just my word, right? There was a lot of evidence. But so far this split, he played Aatrox, and I think he played Rise. Was that it?
Yes.
I can't.
That was the last split. Yeah, they could have won that game, obviously.
I thought his Aatrox was fine, and I thought like his Rise was okay. So like I'm not gonna say anything about Abidag yet. All I will say for certain is that he is better than he was last split. So I'm with Loco on this one. I'll give them a playoff spot for time being. I don't hate
Wait a minute. How many fucking playoff spots are we giving away here? There's only 6, media, so you aware this? Like, so we're going. Like, well, let's just get this out the way. G2, OG, and Fnatic are all making it. Yes, let's put those out. We'll put those to one side.
Yeah.
So we've only got 3 spots left. Right?
Yes.
So the 3 spots, you're giving 1 to Schalke, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Are you giving 1 to Misfits?
I'm giving 1 to Splice.
Splice. There's only 1 left, mate, and we've got to go between. Let me see. Who have we
Take
got?
out
Vitality.
No, Vitality's out.
I think Vitality's out. I think Vitality won't get better.
Ooh, oh damn, that's interesting.
So then who's getting the last spot? SK?
It would be Misfits or SK probably, unless Rogue makes a miracle run. What am I talking about? Miracle run. It's been week 1. They're currently like 1-1.
Their start is too horrible to recover from. They went 1-1.